Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of October, 2025, which of course means it is time for episode 71 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. I know what you're thinking. Didn't the other one just come out yesterday? Well, that wasn't yesterday. That was a week ago. But trust me, I feel your pain. Where does the time go? Lots to talk about in this issue. We have everything from Diane Keaton. We have Mexican drug cartels. We have Zin nicotine gum. We have the World Series. We have New Brunswick comedians. We have English comedians. We have... that's pretty much it, I guess. There's a long list of things, don't worry. Lots to talk about. I'm going to start with your questions so that they don't get rushed at the end. I will very quickly... I'm going to do everything in reverse, basically, this time. I'm going to start with the positive mantra for the week. And is it a positive mantra? Is it a thought-provoking... It'd be funny how when people stop calling inspirational quotes, and just start calling them memes. But anyway, here is meme of the day. Oh my goodness, meme of the day. Does anyone else find yourself watching the all of the breakfast morning shows on TV in Atlantic Canada are amazing. Like the CTV morning team in Halifax are phenomenal. Global News, Paul Brothers, off the charts, brilliant. But there's a diabolical CTV morning live in Toronto that solely consists of 3 girls playing TikTok videos. Like, we're literally, you come up for breakfast and you're saying to your kids, get off your phone, stop watching TikTok, it's garbage, it's rotting your brain, blah, 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 blah. And then the news is playing nothing, and they sit there for an hour. There's no script, again, obviously I can't complain. Obviously, I'm not going to be the first in line casting the first stone at anyone having the audacity to, splurge their nonsense into the eardrums of the world without a script or a plan. However, I am not the news. I'm not the government-funded primetime news across the country. So I question the fact that, and again, people in the TV industry complain that not enough people watch TV anymore. You need to support terrestrial TV and not just watch the social. Well, here's an idea. How about if you work in the news, you report the news, talk about the news, talk about things that are happening, talk about things that are happening in your community. Or, unknown caller. Well, there's a professional thing for you. Someone's calling me. Hello? Surprise, surprise. It's one of those like spam. Basically, I will now turn. Please, could you? The show will begin in 1 minute. Please, could you all turn off your phones, because it would be highly unprofessional if your phones were to go off. I do love it when a phone goes off during a gig. Quite often, I'm quite lucky where a phone goes off during a show, and occasionally it would happen at a point where I'm actually either finding there's a lull in the laughter, or I've lost my way slightly, or I'm starting to think, okay, I need to pick things up again. And if a phone goes off and I'm able to grab it, it can be absolutely glorious. Sorry, what was it about? Anyway, just the point that if you're the news, don't just play TikTok videos. Everyone's watching TikTok all day. They turn on the TV to watch the news, to, believe it or not, actually get away from that. And you're not helping yourself, because you'll be taken off the air very, very quickly if all you do is play TikTok videos, because then they'll think, well, we don't even need you there, sitting there commenting on it and laughing about it. Anyway, here's my quote of the day. It's better to admit that you walked through the wrong door than spend your life in the wrong room. I read that last week. It made me think about moving here. It's better to admit you walked through the wrong door than spend your life in the wrong room. I guess that's another way of saying it's never too late to make a change. I would also like to, from the top, implore you to check out our website, certifiedcanadianpublisher.com, while we are in the realm and world and moment of embracing local. It's never been more, and again, it's interesting how selective we are with what we choose to support local on. I've talked about this before in the case of comedians, where lots of venues across Atlantic Canada and indeed across Canada continue to hire solely American comedians for their seasons, and again, plenty of people are happy to go and spend their money, but they won't buy a bottle of wine from a family-run vineyard in California who have campaigned against Trump, and their entire business is being sunk because everyone's boycotting their wine, even though they're just a family of decent people that own a vineyard. Anyway, certifiedcanadianpublisher.com. Keep your dollars in Canada when you buy a book. Look for the sale. We, of course, here in Atlantic Canada have the Atlantic Publishers Association. We do actually have a big feature on them in the next issue of the Maritime Edit. And my friends at both Nimbus and Goose Lane have some very beautiful books coming out this Christmas. So I implore you, when you are doing your Christmas shopping, to check out the Pottersfield Press as well, Acorn Press, tons of great Atlantic Canadian publishers, certifiedcanadianpublisher.com or Atlantic Books today. Okay, those are two things that we have covered. We're going to get to, well, I'll get to this. So I had maybe today will be slightly more focused because I got a bit of a ramble out earlier with a fellow rambler, a fellow ADHDer. My dear friend Daphne, we had a phone chat about an hour ago, so we got a lot of rambling up. Daphne informed me of something which I wanted to share with you. I obviously talk a lot on this show about Anne of Green Gables. I probably shouldn't make this the third week running that is me banging on about Anne of Green Gables, otherwise it just becomes, I may as well just change the name of it to Mullinger's Weekly Anne of Green Gables podcast. A catchy name like that. Daphne wrote to me and said, if you have the Crunchyroll streaming service and you haven't checked it out, please give the anime Anne Shirley a try. Well, thank you, Daphne. I did. And Anne Shirley, the anime, is absolutely brilliant. It has all the kind of the heart and soul of L.M. Montgomery's original books, but with an anime spin. Well, since we're on Anne of Green Gables, I last week was trying to find some of my favorite quotes, and I couldn't find the pages that I'd underlined. Here I think I've talked about this before, about how I was obsessed with the character of Marianne in Jane Austen's book Sense and Sensibility, and how through that fell in love with the actress. Kate Winslet wrote her letters telling her as such. Again, if you haven't heard that story, watch out for a book called Attention Please coming out next year. There was 2 chapters on this. At one point, Marilla says to Anne, "Will you ever have any sense, Anne?" And Anne replies, "Oh yes, I think I will. I think my prospects of becoming sensible are now brighter than ever." It's interesting because one of the things that I related to both Anne and Marianne for was having no sense and only sensibility. I told you I was going to get to your questions. I will. There's a point where Anne says she's going to give up on being kind of a romantic, and and Matthew says to her, "Don't give up on all your romance, Anne. A little of it is a good thing. Not too much, of course, but keep a little of it, Anne. Keep a little of it." Good advice for us all. Here are some of the absolute cast iron evidence that Anne was neurodivergent. At one point she says, "Isn't it nice to think that tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it yet?" Which, of course, is the hyper-focused kind of divergent thinking of like how we have this kind of optimistic reframing, plus a kind of a resilience and a unique, I don't know, cognitive flexibility. We're always kind of resetting mentally, which actually, okay, here's how I can justify banging on about this. We're also going to get to Prince Andrew. There's so much to it. First letter from our Florida listener, the beloved Lady Catherine St. Pierre. She says, "Good morning, James. I just finished gardening in the beautiful Florida sunshine while listening to your pod. Admittedly, I've been awaiting your 69th podcast for some time now. You did not disappoint. That is the first time I've been involved in a 69er that did not disappoint. A beautiful lady." One question I would love answered regarding ADHD. Which safeguards does your family have in place whilst living and loving the unmedicated ADHD family member? I guess one of the safeguards they have in place, which, they should have more, but the one they should have in place is they should realize that if they've asked me to do a job like the dishes, don't then get me to take the laundry down or the bins out, because clearly I'm going to get, distracted by some side quest that will probably, result in, at best, me reorganizing the Tupperware in the cupboard, but possibly at worst getting in the car and going off to an errand somewhere. If you distract me doing the thing that I'm doing while in the hyperfocus, I will not be coming back to it. So that is one safeguard. I mean, there's a book I'm reading actually right now, or listening to, called ADHD is Awesome, which is full of advice. It's possibly somewhat, there's an element I find with books like this where people are trying to, it's called ADHD is Awesome, and it's by Penn and Kim Holderness. Some of you may have heard of them. I had not. They are these people who basically make videos at home. These people that kind of prostitute out their families, like take video, do all these videos of their kids and make movies at home, post them online, billions and billions of views, very, very popular. Well done. I hadn't heard of them, but the book is very insightful. It's possibly overstating things, and it's kind of not helpful because it makes you feel like an underachiever, because it's like, oh, well, the great thing about Penn's ADHD is that Penn can go upstairs and write a little jaunty ditty in the space of 15 minutes. Then we put it online and we got 10 billion views. We made $1 million. Isn't ADHD great? Well, here's the thing. Some of us are lying on the bathroom floor crying, Penn. So great news for you. I'm not the best very most. I will go through all Catherine's questions. I will address them all. So the safeguards I think they have in place is kind of just knowing what I'm like, but then equally, even as my wife often says, just because I have a diagnosis, everyone else has things. And especially in my house they do, and they don't have a label, but they're equally as annoying and difficult to live with. What benefits do aforementioned family members derive from living and loving their unmedicated ADHD family member? I guess possibly the same benefits of having. I didn't want to be flippant there, but I was going to say possibly the same benefits having a bipolar family member in that it is extremes. Although the other day my son River said something. Generally, your kids don't say nice things to you because they prefer roasting you, which is where the love comes from. But River said something the other day where he said something like, I was in a jaunt him, and he said, "Oh, you're always jolly, Dad." And I thought, well, that's nice. That's his takeaway, is that I'm always in a good mood. I'm happy to hear that that's how I seem. I'm great at covering things up. I guess is one of the answers. Okay, but I guess it's a weird thing because obviously my happiness generally derives from was last night's gig amazing or not? And which is pathetic because it's I mean, yes, obviously part of that stems from like the dopamine flooding into the brain and that ADHD thing of the sense of and feeling of satisfaction. So, Saturday during the day was feeling somewhat glum, then went to Moncton and had the most delightful. It's funny, there's a room at the Delta that I've done probably upwards of 30 gigs at the Delta in Moncton over the last decade. And in the last couple of years, I've done a few in this one particular room. I guess the big room up top. And I have to say, last time I think I was there, it was the Rotary Club Foundation, Rotary Club of Moncton. This was the Friends of Moncton Hospital Foundation. 60 years of the Moncton Hospital Foundation, $100 million raised. First Nation was 1965 from the Nurses Auxiliary Group. They were there. I'm not reading this. I remember all this. This is how great a night it was. Anyway, an amazing evening of philanthropy, giving, kindness, warmth, love, celebration. And then I did like an hour and 10 minutes of stand-up, hour, 10 minutes of stand-up at the end. And it was just one of the best. And this, obviously then suddenly I was driving home in the greatest mood. Sunday I'm in the best mood. Happy as that, just over the moon. So I guess it's that thing where family members I guess this is one of the safeguards in places. It's like, did Dad have a good gig last night? Yes, great. We're all gonna have a wonderful day. Did Dad find last night's gig a little bit tricky and struggle a bit? Great. We're all going out today. We're gonna leave him behind. I guess that's a safeguard. And I guess the benefits one derives from an unmedicated ADHD family member is life's never predictable. I'm sure my wife, when she waits before I go on stage, I always text her. It's my good luck thing. I text her and say, about to go on. She writes back and says, good luck, enjoy it, break a leg, whatever. I'm sure she's thinking for the next kind of 90 minutes, please God, let it be a good gig. Otherwise tomorrow it's going to be horrible. And then I think the rest of this message might be just for me and not for broadcast. But I'll read it out anyway. I'm sure you don't mind. I emailed Pam regarding my new subscription to the Mailto Edit, having not yet arrived, only to have it remind me of the postal strike. I'd forgotten about it, but so looking forward to your beautiful magazine arriving in my mailbox. Thank you, Lady Catherine. I hope you enjoy the mag. I'm actually currently working around the clock on the next issue of the mag, which is a health and wellness special. We have everything in it from ballet to MMA, i.e. the Maritimes UFC. I am sorry. My Zeller's t-shirts are sold out. A wife of an unmedicated ADHD family member. That's a good idea for a t-shirt. Lady Catherine, shoot me your address. Let me send you one of my new tour t-shirts. They say be more Canadian on them, which no one is more Canadian than you, which I hope everyone knows is a compliment. Let me know. So here are some. Going back to your question, here are some Anne of Green Gables quotes. She makes there's a lot of kind of self-aware humor about kind of impulsivity and difficulty with learning from repetition, which is very ADHD coded. I think we can agree. Anne says at one point, I never make the same mistake twice. I make it 5 or 6 times, just to be sure. What a brilliant line from a book written over 100 years ago. She also kind of has sensory delight, which are kind of, that kind of intense aesthetic appreciation is a hallmark of emotional and sensory sensitivity. So when she says, I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers, which feels very appropriate to now. And she's a philosopher, when she says, it's not what the world holds for you, it's what you bring to it. Anyway, if anyone is interested in all of I have gone through basically the first 3 Anne of Green Gables books, writing down every single quote that I think proves my point that Anne of Green Gables is neuro diverse. Here is my final one, where she says, which sums up kind of restless mental energy, like my idea of waking up every morning at 4 a.m. and flying out. But it's so weird when I sit at my desk here during the day trying to work. And I remember when I did take the medication, how I was actually able to sit here and finish a job. And instead what happens, I basically work the way that I talk to you guys, is that ideas just flood into my head and I have to act on them all immediately. So I start doing one thing. I'm like, no, you need to do this other thing, you need to do this other thing. So I'm constantly got 50 emails on the go. But here's a quote. Oh, it's delightful to have ambitions. I'm so glad to have such a lot, and there never seems to be any end to them. That's the best of it. That's from Anne of the Island, which I just finished reading. If that is not a neurodiverse ADHD, I don't know what is. So, Daphne sent me an article about how Anne of Green Gables became popular in Japan. Now, does anyone know this story? I bet you don't. Would you believe the story and I've talked in the past about how, how it's fascinating it is to me that like this entire island has this entire booming economy and people traveling from all over the world to go to PEI, when, I'm not being rude, but in my opinion, New Brunswick just as good, if not better, right? It looks the same. People are like, oh yeah, we did drive through New Brunswick to go to PEI. It's the same. It looks the same. There just happens to be more things in New Brunswick. I mean, I love PEI, don't get me wrong, but it's just this idea that when I travel the country, people dumping on New Brunswick, and yet PEI is a magical place. Well, no, it is a magical place, but so is New Brunswick, gang, dang it. Did you know how Anne of Green Gables got massive in Japan? It was thanks to Loretta Leonard Shaw, who was born in 1872 in, wait for it, St. John, New Brunswick. You're welcome, PEI. She was she was born to a family that belonged to the Wesleyan Methodist Church. Long story short, she was a missionary. She was looking for ways to fulfill her missionary work. She picked up she started studying Japanese, picked up Japanese in 1 year and began teaching in Osaka at the Bishop Paul Memorial School for girls. Long story short, I can send you the rest. Basically, took and translated Anne of Green Gables to Japan, and the rest is history. Although there's obviously a lot more to it, but I think I can hear what you're thinking. You're thinking, James, this isn't an Anne of Green Gables podcast. Go back to Talking the Absolute Box. Okay, best podcast I listened to in the last week was a new British podcast. Actually, I need a sip of water, and on that, I'm going to tell you something about this water I'm drinking. My friend Frank Cruz is very much the epitome of what I guess I try and do on this podcast and what we do in the magazine. He is the absolute epitome of supporting local and embracing New Brunswick. Frank, like me, is not from it. Frank is from Ottawa. Sorry, not from Ottawa, Ontario. Frank is from Ontario. And Frank moved from Toronto, Ontario, to New Brunswick, I would say, is it fair to say 5 years ago, Frank? Frank is one of the owners of Rothesay Athletics, which is a beautiful gym here in Rothesay, where myself, my wife, and my son Hunter all go to. I'm going actually in a few hours' time. I'm going to see my trainer Tara there. Literally, like, lifesaver, complete lifesaver. Now, last week I was there with my bestie Andrew Armstrong. We were working out, and Frank came over and showed us a bottle of water called Jano, Jano. Some of you may know this. Sometimes I talk about things and you guys might be thinking, everyone knows this, James. Frank, being a proponent of, and so many people, as I say, talk about supporting local, and very few people practice it as much. Often the people that scream it the most on the socials aren't actually practicing. Well, Frank is the real deal when it comes to. He heard that there was a spring water spring in New Brunswick in a place called Blanchard, Blanchard, which is north of Miramichi, which is translation for bloody miles away. So Frank, being Frank, drives all the way to Blanchard, New Brunswick, meets this family that owns Jano, eau de source, spring water, and basically goes into business with them. In other words, buys huge stocks of their water to bring to the gym. That is what supporting local is actually about. So my question is for Circle K, Irving's, all the shops in our community, why are you all selling and why are we all buying Dasani or whatever else, or waters owned by American companies when we could be drinking? And Frank said it is the. And I know it seems weird, some people go, oh, water was it? No, this is the most delicious water, as you would expect. It's real, genuine spring water from New Brunswick. The website is janosource.com. That's SOURCE, not SAUCE, because it's not source, it's source. Janosource.com. Check them out, and then definitely go into Rothesay Athletics on the Hampton Road to buy a bottle, or better still, go in and have a chat with my friend Tara about working out. It's literally the best hour of my week every week. Anyway, that was what. So the point is, I need a sip of water. That's the point. So the best podcast I listened to last week was Stewart Lee. I think I've talked about this before. Is one of my favorite. Stewart Lee is one of my favorite comedians anywhere in the world, but I would say probably my favorite comedian. Well, here's the thing: my two favorite comedians in England. By favorite, I mean the two that make me laugh the most, and you can't control what you laugh at. Are literally on opposite ends of the political spectrum, which is why I find divisiveness and the absurdity of all the things that everyone's arguing about right now so just, let's just say, unhelpful. Stewart Lee is probably one of the most left-wing comedians on the UK circuit. Anyway, he has a wonderful interview that he did on a new podcast called Class Clown, hosted by a comedian called Sean Walsh, who's a very, very talented British comedian who was rising up the ranks, doing extremely well, went on to Strictly Come Dancing, became a tabloid fixture and a kind of a darling. And so finally, after years of toiling on the club and club circuit, was about to break out as a mainstream star, and then got caught drunkenly snogging the dancer that he was paired with on Strictly Come Dancing. So overnight went from kind of hero to like love rat. And the British tabloids love to, tear people down. not to condone what he did, but I mean, he has a brilliant stand-up special about and let's face it, I mean, what he did, not nice, but also not illegal or immoral or predatory, two consenting adults kissing. So anyway, here's a great stand-up special about what it's like to become the most hated man in Britain for doing something which the bloody king did, let's not forget. And then not only did the king do it and then marry the mistress, and I don't want to dwell too much on the Prince Andrew thing, but I'm aware we have monarchists who listen to this podcast. I'm aware of that. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I would love to have your honest opinion, because at no point on this podcast do we ever, pointing fingers, being divisive, or in any way being. My question is that where do you stand on the fact that, can we all agree now that Prince Andrew did exactly what he was accused of? Like Virginia, by the way, her book has just come out. Her posthumous book, which she wrote before taking her own life. Can we all agree that what she says about Epstein and Prince Andrew is most likely true? And if we are all in agreement on that, can we all agree that, and I see now this is actually finally being investigated, where the Queen found the $14 million that she used to pay off Virginia, who Andrew claims to have never met. It's, how did they get onto this? I'm not sure, but I guess my point is Sean Walsh is not did not deserve any of the kind of shaming that he was subjected to, given the king is a philanderer and he was married. Sean was not married, and also Sean's brother did not rape an underage woman and then have the Queen of England pay them off. So anyway, I'm not saying everyone has to be compared to that. My point is, Sean, and he's a good guy. He's a great stand-up special about the shaming. It's very funny. Anyway, he started this new podcast called Class Clown, when he interviews British comedians about what they were like in school, essentially. Stewart Lee has always been one of my favourite comedians. He's one of the few people I will travel back to England to see live. The handful of people I will go back to England to see are family, Roy Chubby Brown, Stewart Lee, and Frank Skinner. Stewart Lee has a great. He talks about his new show, and he says how it's about. This is a quote. That's how much I love this podcast. I was writing down the things Stewart Lee was saying. Stewart Lee, he says his new show is about those awful, stupid comedians that say you can't say anything and think they're being cancelled all the time, and yet somehow are billionaires and have Emmys and Grammys and things. He said Louis C.K. thinks he's been cancelled because he was made to apologise for masturbating in front of some women, and then seems to have been able to just carry on. Being cancelled is what happens to a journalist in Saudi Arabia when you get chopped into bits and put in a suitcase. That's what being cancelled is. That puts a little bit of perspective, doesn't it, on the idea of cancellation. He goes into the Saudi Arabia festival, which of course I talked about far too much last week and the week before. I will just follow it up to say that I know it's ludicrous that like the tennis players and the boxers and the snooker players, and they all get to go to Saudi and do whatever to do all these things and take the Saudi royal family's money. And why is it unfair that the clowns, the jesters, the comedians, is it unfair that they are held to a higher standard when they're not? Well, normally I would agree, yes. Like, it isn't fair that comedians, we get none of the, we get no grants, we get no benefits, we get no respect. Is it fair that we're held to a higher standard than politicians? No, it's not. However, I think I made this point that Bill Burr chose to make himself the voice of reason, the voice against hypocrisy and billionaires. And Bill Burr's doubling down on, screw you all, England's got a far worse track record than Saudi Arabia. Yes, but if you went to England and took money from like Nigel Farage or the King of England to go over there to whitewash England's terrible, colonialism reputation, we would also hate you for that. Going to England to do a gig in a theatre is a different thing to going to Saudi Arabia in cahoots with the royal family who chopped up a journalist in a suitcase. Anyway, I don't want to go on about it. My takeaway a few weeks on from banging on about this is I unfortunately can no longer watch Bill Burr. I've unsubscribed to his... Not, he doesn't give a shit, but I'm just telling you guys that this is how I can't enjoy being ensconced in someone's world and worldview if I have them pegged as a complete liar and hypocrite. And I would assume it's the same for you. Again, what are the things, you are all very kind to join me each week on this journey of the mad octopus that is my brain. If you felt like I was being disingenuous or dishonest with you, and felt it's like when a friend lies to you. I have had this recently. A friend lied to me about something quite big, and it's like, that's okay. I think that's, and there's no reason for it. So that's that. I mean, you just can't. If you can't trust the person, you don't have to cut them. But my point is, I don't know. I don't have to listen. I don't have to listen to Bill Burr. I can't listen to it because I can't enjoy it anymore. Is the point? I don't enjoy it anymore because then I don't believe what I used to enjoy. I guess this is the point. What I used to enjoy about listening to and watching Bill Burr is I felt like he believed everything he says. I now know he believes nothing of what he says. He's a grifting charlatan, which is fine. Be that. Works for Larry the Cable Guy, works for many other people in this world, but it just, I don't have to, which is a shame because, as I say, I used to be absolutely obsessed with him. Stewart Lee goes on to talk about the festival, and he says, he goes, I was really surprised by some of the people that went, meaning probably Bill Burr. Not by most of them. It's basically a list of people who you'd never want to see anyway, isn't it? Well, it is. Also, they said it's the biggest comedy festival in the world. The biggest comedy festival in the world. It's got 42 people in it. The Exeter Comedy... This is a great line, if you know, in the UK. They said it's the biggest comedy festival in the world. It's got 42 people in it. The Exeter Comedy Festival has more acts. There's a festival in a Welsh village called Mullinger that has more acts. Even if 2,000 people went to every show, it's not even 10% of the people that go to see shows in the Fringe. It's a lie. He also goes into why he loved Star Trek over Star Wars as a child, and how Star Trek has a humanist philosophy, and how it had an impact on American politics and American culture in such a positive way. The first interracial kiss was on Star Trek. And here's an interesting fact that he shares, that Lieutenant Uhura, who was the black actress who didn't want to do the kiss with Kirk because she knew about the racial tensions in America at the time, which unfortunately now even worse, oddly, bizarrely, but she knew that she would get the abuse for kissing a white man on TV, not the other way around. And it was actually Martin Luther King who said to her that she must do it, and that's why she did it. But then, of course, Julie points out the absurdity of the American public had no problem with Captain Kirk kissing a green woman or a woman with 5 legs. But anyway, this is boring. This is me doing a podcast, reading out the best things I heard on another podcast last week. It's worth checking out. He also goes into a very interesting thing about how he hates Oasis. I effing hate them for what they did, thieving their fans with the Ticketmaster thing. Now, this is very crucial because Stewart Lee explains how easy it is. He goes on tours, massive tours all year round, and plays to thousands of people a night. He refuses to play venues if they work with ticket agencies that fuck over his fans. So he just won't do it, and so they find a way to make it work that doesn't screw people over. Every single artist has the power to do that, and they are just choosing not to. So every time you feel ripped off by an artist that you follow, remember that they are ripping you off. They have chosen to rip you off, and if you want to stay in their world, in their sphere, that's fine. But there's a lot of artists out there making sure that you don't. Okay. Tim Andrews, by the way, thank you very much, my friend, for your message about the TV show Bottom. If anyone would like to know what we watched growing up in England and made any of us that love comedy, Tim is now watching Bottom with his 15-year-old daughter. Me and my brother always watch it when we get together. If you like slapstick, if you can imagine the best of Charlie Chaplin and Laurel Hardy with added violence, farts, and bodily fluids, Bottom is the show for you. Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson, very, very formative. Definitely one of the things that shaped my love of comedy. I watched a video on Instagram this week of Will Arnett in a a premier lineup. And he says to the interviewer, they ask him a question, and he says, sorry, can I zin? Can I zin during this interview? And he puts this piece of gum in his mouth. Now, I've never heard of what zin is, so I Google zin. And it's a nicotine gum, which is not like FDA approved. It's not approved as a help you quit smoking thing. It's actually, it transpires, a nicotine gum created by the tobacco companies to make money, basically, right? I mean, less people are smoking cigarettes, so they're trying to get you all addicted to nicotine other ways. Obviously, they've got people vaping. I'm watching this thinking, how depressing is that? The tobacco companies, just trying to find other ways to kill you and steal all your money. But the fact that Will Arnett, again, I've seen him pimping, whoring a bank maybe here in Canada. Is he Canadian? I shouldn't slag him off if he's Canadian, actually. But my point is, if he needed to take us in there, and clearly he was being paid to do it. So just the greed of these scumbags, even in... I went to see After the Hunt, which is supposed to be kind of a post or pre or it's a Me Too movie. Just come out at cinemas with Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield. Again, very clever, very well done. I can see what they're doing. Clever, strokey beard, scratchy head. Aren't you clever? Well done, you. Kate Blanchett did a good Me Too movie, so I want to do one too, said Julia, and I might win an Oscar. 2 hours of 20 minutes of the most boring shit you have ever sat through. You can cover all of these topics, race relations, privilege, Me Too, consent. You can tackle those things maturely, respectfully. But when you literally bore the pants, we were the only 2 people in the cinema, and I had a couple of naps. And I wanted to like it, and there's things I did like about it, and it was thought-provoking-ish, but also not really. Anyway, my point with the nicotine gum thing was just that... my point was that Julia Roberts throughout the movie is smoking Marlboro cigarettes. You can see their Marlboro, she's holding cans of Coke, and it's like, why is everything sullied with shit? Like, why is Julia Roberts hawking? You can't tell me that Marlboro didn't. As if the character had to have a Marlboro branded cigarette. Of course they didn't. That's completely paid for, behind, off the books maybe, whatever. The product placement everywhere. It's so unnecessary, and just so greedy. And then, so my point was seeing Will Arnett do this thing. It's like, Will Arnett, really? Like, you haven't got enough money that you are hawking nicotine gum on red carpets. I mean, you dirty, filthy, grifting sleazebags. When will everything is bullshit to sell you something? It's a bit like... Wall Street Journal did a really interesting article at the weekend about how cocaine use is way up in America. It's like doubled in the last 5 years. So there's an investigation into why. Part of it is that Trump's clampdown on fentanyl has meant that it's very easy now, apparently, to get cocaine out of Mexico into America. I guess maybe also it's because the clampdown on fentanyl has meant there's been less of it being spiked. I don't know. But the takeaway also was that all this bullshit we read about how Gen Z are all super healthy. They don't drink alcohol, so buy a non-alcoholic beer. It's just all propaganda to make you buy non-alcoholic beer, which costs the same as alcoholic beer, but costs a fraction of the cost to make, and they're selling it to you for the same amount of money. So they're making 10 times more profits. It's profits and lies. It's like, Gen Z, they're so healthy. They're not drinking alcohol because they're blasted out of their brains on cocaine, mushrooms, and weed, and vaping and Zyn nicotine gum shoved into their gobs by Will fucking Arnett. I just get sick of the fact that every single thing that we see is designed to sell us something and bullshit us. Did I tell you this the other day? My youngest son said something to me that just made me feel so old. He said to me when I said something, he goes, the problem with you millennials, like meaning me, a millennial. Me, a millennial. I'm a Gen Z. No, sorry, not Gen Z. Jesus Christ, oh my God, that would be awful. No, there's none listening. There's definitely no Gen Z listening. I'm Generation X, obviously. But what's weird to hear a 12-year-old insult me as calling me a millennial in the same way that millennials used to say boomer as an insult, like, okay, boomer. I'm of the generation I was hiring millennials at GQ complaining about bloody millennials 15, 20 years ago. I'm the one complaining about millennials. Because they're young and lazy at the time. Okay, generalization, whatever. But that was, and I'm not saying that, but that's what I was saying back then. To now be called a millennial as an insult for old just is off the charts. Anyway, I'm 47. I'm Generation X. We're the best generation. We're the ones that turn things around. The boomers, you had all the bigotry and all that, and the boomers didn't. The boomers' parents had the bigotry. The boomers started to remove the bigotry due to the hippie movement. I'm making all this up, and then our generation made it completely unacceptable to be racist or homophobic or sexist. And then because the generation beneath us had nothing to rally against, they invented a load of other shit to get angry about, which turned into the, some would say extreme woke movement, I guess, which then made everyone so angry and pissed off that Donald Trump got into power. And now the whole world is run by neo-Nazis because of fucking... a combination of Generation Z and millennials. Maybe. Some of that probably isn't the case. I've no idea what I'm talking about. Next question. Author Andrew Butters. Hope you're well, my friend. What's your World Series prediction? I'm assuming the World Series is the thing the Blue Jays is involved in. If so, it is the Canadian team. The Blue Jays will win. Do I sound like... Now I sound like a boomer. No, that kind of ignorance. No, that would be Alpha or Z. Write in. Tell me how offensive my stereotypes of the different generations are. And write to me. Tell me what generation you are, dear listeners, dear ramblers, there's a hole in my pocket, dear ramblers. Well, my favourite song, my favourite religious song growing up was always do you remember that song? Cross over the road, my friend. Ask the Lord his strength to lend. His compassion has no end. Cross over the road. I don't know why that always stuck in my mind, but I used to picture a specific road in Maidenhead where I grew up. And it's the same road where, hilariously, I think my uncle was quite hungover once. And my grandma did love to wind people up, and she would say, I think there's a clicking sound in the car. There's a clicking, and my uncle's like, there's no clicking, and there's a blatant clicking. When someone is just denying something, and it's right there, and they're claiming it's not there or happening, kind of like we all do with all our problems day to day. And this is a metaphor for depression or alcoholism. It's not there. It's not there. And it is there. It's clicking. And then he just basically stopped the car, engine still running, got out of the car and stormed off. And I'll never forget the kind of 5 or 10 minutes my grandma and I just sat in the back of the car, engine running in the middle of the road, kind of thinking, will he come back? And he didn't. But then, Jared Lewis Davidson, lovely to hear from you, my friend. Jared is a long-term listener of the show, long-term friend of mine. I haven't seen him since Comic Sutra in January, and I just saw you at the Comic Sutra in Fredericton, which is, I believe now, New Brunswick's only remaining comedy club. The Comic Sutra in Fredericton, I will be back there in February, doing for the first time in that space a series of 3 shows, which will be the what they called, not work in progress, unplanned, unscripted, off the cuff. I'm doing 3 at the BMO Theatre in January before doing 8 shows for Horizon. Then I'm doing 3 at the Comic Sutra, 1 on a Thursday, 2 on a Friday. you, the audience, pick the subjects, and I improvise 90 minutes of stand-up on the spot. Okay, very quickly before I answer Jared's question, I just want to very, very quickly say, because I realise I'm running out of time, how the hell did 45 minutes go by? Shows that are coming up. Tomorrow night, Thursday 23rd, I'm at Lily Lake Pavilion by beautiful Lily Lake at Rockwood Park, performing the annual Roaring for Romero House fundraiser. God bless you, Julia Tower, for organising this once again. Can't wait to see you. Beautiful MC Mandy Lynn Donovan. Romero House, amazing lineup. It is my last show in St. John of this year. So I hope to see you there. Every single cent goes to Romero House. It is vital that we get that money to Evelyn McNulty and her incredible saints that feed. You want to do some help in this community. We need to feed our friends, our hungry friends. So let's make that happen. Friday night, I'm in Hampton with Ethan Ash. Then it's a series of... Actually, I've got a week of shows for NBCC. If you go to NBCC in Moncton, St. John, Miramichi, or Fredericton, the week of the 3rd of November, I'm performing in each of those cities that week. Then I've got some shows at the Algonquin the following week. Actually, they're all private shows. But then I'm going to Kelowna to do shows. Okay, 26th of November, Venables Theatre, Oliver, British Columbia. Thursday, 27th of November, I'm at the Creekside Theatre, Lake Country, British Columbia. Friday, I'm at the Centre for the Arts, Summerland, British Columbia. Saturday, the 29th, I'm at the Effie Arts Collective in Kamloops, BC. We're doing 2 shows that night. Then I'm flying back the next day. And then, because my December is so filled with Christmas party gigs, keynotes, corporates, etc., I will definitely be doing 2 nights at Long Bay at some point. I should point out my tickets for my Capitol Theatre Moncton tour date went on sale today. Well, actually, they don't go on sale till Friday, but pre-sale is on sale now, and quite miraculously, most of the floor seats have already gone. Thank you. I had a gig last night for some absolutely delightful, wonderful, beautiful people. And the organisers are absolutely wonderful, delightful, beautiful. For some reason, I didn't feel like my performance landed the way that I hoped it would, the way that it did last time I performed for them, and maybe it was because I've got such high hopes, high expectations after Saturday night's blistering gig in Moncton. But basically, the audience didn't seem very happy to see me. Because I don't feel like I did. For once, I don't feel like I did something wrong. Maybe I did pre-show. Maybe I've been analysing it. I mean, the room wasn't as dark as I like it. The stage was possibly too high. I don't know what it was. So, it went fine, but something didn't click, and I was feeling I was disappointed in myself, I suppose, this morning is the best way I can describe it. A huge high had gone to a huge low. In short, everyone knew. The family knew it was going to be a bad day, and then lo and behold, tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. this morning, and by noon we'd sold something like 200 tickets, which frankly made me feel like less of a loser. So thank you, Moncton. But the pre-sale code, by the way, is Canada. Jared Lewis Davidson has asked the question, James, who is your favourite New Brunswick comedian? Well, there's a very, very long list of them. I'll deliver 5. Why don't I deliver my favourite 5 comedians every week? I was having a bad day last week, actually. I went into the liquor store. It wasn't for me, so I wasn't going to drown my sorrows. But I went in, the guy behind the counter said to me, "Oh, you just come back from Alberta?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh, yeah, but one of my best friends that lives out there posted a picture with you. She saw you somewhere, took a selfie with you." And he was being very complimentary. He asked me a question. He said, "Well, you must be one of the top 5 comedians in Canada now, or top 5 touring comedians." I'm like, "You're joking, aren't you?" So I'm not even in the top 5 in New Brunswick. So I'll tell you 5 of my favourites, but this is not my definitive 5. My favourite number 1 would be the first comedian this province had living here anyway at the time. But yes, he was the first. Shane Ogden is the without question one of the funniest comedians, one of the nicest guys, one of my oldest friends, and I say that now. Not many. I guess when you're in your mid 40s, you don't have many people that you can call close friends for more than 20 years. Shane would be one. He's also someone, every time I see him, has a different act. Always testing, trialing new material. Never not looking to improve, but always nailing it. And I love him to bits. I believe he's headlining the Comic Sutra this weekend. So if you do want to see Shane Ogden, go and see him. Brad Rice would be another example. Brad Rice is someone who has worked extremely hard to get it extremely good, extremely quickly, because he's only been doing it for a few years. But yeah, but on stage opening for me at the Playhouse a few weeks ago, you would think he'd performed in front of 700 people thousands of times. Michelle Lynn Petite is another person who is routinely ripping the roof off, left, right, and centre. Straight after her Yip performance, I received so many messages from people asking her name. Another one of my favourites would be Nathan Dimitrov, who actually, I believe, has asked a question. Oh, he's asked a question for this podcast. It's a great one. Shall I? Okay, I'll finish Jared's question. I can't count, so this might be more than 5 already. Corey Hartlin, obviously, every single year at the Playhouse comes with a whole new different 15 minutes, always rips the roof off. I have, by the way, anyone wondering, I was debating whether to come to the Playhouse again next year because of the new Playhouse Performing Arts Centre opening the following year. I will be back next year. I'm thinking what I'll do at the Playhouse next year. I've done it 8 times in the last 8 years. I'm going to do a best of all my favourite Fredericton jokes. So basically a pretty much exclusive Fredericton-based show from the last 8 years, plus anything that happens between now and then. Greg Parker, Alex Parker, and David and Brenda Sampson, I'm looking at you for intel, please. Speaking of Fredericton, I mentioned this last week. Please, please, please Google Beaverbrook memberships. My dear friend Bernard Doucette and my wife's dear school friend Bernard Doucette, who is new head president, CEO, lead at the Beaverbrook Arts Gallery. Bernard is doing incredible things there. The Beaverbrook has always been something all New Brunswickers should be enormously proud of. If you live in New Brunswick and you can afford it, please do become a member. It is vital that we all join the Beaverbrook and become members. And we should all be doing it. Okay. Mia Bruce has asked, what is my dream gig? Well, to be honest, Mia, having rewatched the Fredericton gig from a few weeks ago, that would be my dream, an example of a dream gig to me, when I can go up, do everything I meant to do, and it goes well like that. That was an example of a gig going well. Saturday night in Moncton was another prime example of that. But my dream gig, what would I love? Well, Harbour Station, doing that was definitely a dream. And to be honest, every single gig is a dream gig, which is why I get so upset when they don't go brilliantly, because they all mean just as much to me. But I know what you're asking. I mean, I guess not that I think it would be career changing in any way, because it isn't, because as proven from seeing other people who've done it, and it's not helped them necessarily. But I would love to do a late night show. That would be, as an honest answer, I'd love the discipline of coming up with 5 minutes that I could go out and storm a one of those late night shows with one of those American late night. That would be a dream, and that's really why I wanted to start doing those shows in America this year, to start building up that perfect kind of 5 to 7 minute set for that. Obviously, with everything going on, that's not happening. But never say never. I could see myself, maybe I'll be 70 and get to do that. I think that would be my dream gig. But the honest answer is my dream gig is fire halls and Women's Institute venues in Cow Bay, and my dream gig is any gig that people show up to and laugh at. It's never not. Nathan Dimitrov's asked a very important question, and this is a question I think we're all going to be very excited by, and it really is a question not just for me but for all of us, and it's really a question I think that sums up everything about modern life and indeed the university in which we live. Nathan's question is it too late to ask a question? No, Nathan, it wasn't too late. You can ask me one, but now it's too late. But then again, I'll be back next week and blink and it'll be here. Okay, what else have I got written down here that I was going to talk about? I've been having so many weird dreams. I wake up and think, holy shit, I've got to write that down for the podcast and I forget. I had one of those anxiety dreams last week about performing in Chester. Something went wrong. Imagine if we could control what and who we think about. Like Monday I woke up not hungover, not thinking about all the people who loved the show on Saturday night, but all I'm thinking about is thinking about all the shitheads and morons from my past who've done me wrong or done mean things to me. And I'm like, why are they in my head? Why aren't I thinking about the 300, 400 people that that were applauding and laughing on Saturday night, all the people I met and hugged and made friends with. Why aren't I thinking of them? Why am I thinking of all these morons in the past? I don't know. Interesting thing happening in the UK right now, where politicians at Westminster have a group of comedians and comedy industry professionals in talking about the perfect storm that is battering the comedy industry, and basically how, kind of like in Canada traditionally, comedy hasn't been treated alongside other art forms, but now the government are starting to realize they have to support it because so many industries rely upon comedy. For example, when a comedian does a show in your city, Fredericton, Moncton, Toronto, London, wherever, all those people are going to restaurants, they're using taxis, they're going to bars, they're spending money. It's, and anyway, the government it's interesting that the British government finally doing what the Canadian government have failed to do time and time again. The American comedian Sinbad once famously observed that comedians are far funnier when they're riding the bus, which is why, for those of you that question me riding the bus to Halifax occasionally, that's why. Okay, Ricky Hatton, I'll come to that next week. The enhanced games, that's right. Some sports players are taking part in the do you know about the enhanced games? It's basically an Olympics where people are encouraged, or have to, if they want to take part, to take drugs. And then what are the parameters of this? I don't know. Are you literally on the start line doing a line of blow and then doing the high jump? Are you ripping a bong before swimming? I don't know. Is it any drugs, or is it just performance enhancing drugs? That was always the debate in normal Olympics, is why should someone be disqualified for smoking cannabis? Cannabis is found in their blood, and then they're disqualified for taking drugs, even though, if anything, they should be given a head start if they're on cannabis. J.D. Vance brushed off those racist texts by the adults in the Republican group chat as what kids do. He rather hypocritically, after calling for the sacking of Jimmy Kimmel and confiscating passports of anyone who dared point out anything that Charlie Kirk had actually said, J.D. Vance went on to say, "I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke is a cause to ruin lives." Well, this wasn't a kid, it was an adult, and they're actually a Republican leader and not a comedian. But again, hypocrisy shouldn't be anything we're surprised about. Watched a Black Rabbit, all 8 hours of it. Jude Law and Jason Bateman. Bateman doing a Bateman. Jude Law basically trying to get revenge on, I think, Don Cheadle and Dick Van Dyke for their terrible British accents by somehow doing the worst American accent in television or film or indeed anywhere history. And that is the person who sounds like this when I do an American accent. "Well, goddamn, why didn't you put the dishwasher on?" That's me trying to do a North American accent. And I'm telling you, Jude Law's is worse. I've watched Karate Kid Legends on Sunday morning, actually, with River finally. Highly, ridiculously contrived and predictable, but actually way better than I thought it was going to be. And really, really enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. The Diplomat is back, season 3. I love The Diplomat so much. One of my favorite shows. I believe it. I buy into it. It's one of the only TV shows that doesn't annoy me. And I'm going to close up by talking about the amazing Diane Keaton, but I just want to say 2 more things that I did in the last week. One was I attended the virtual meeting about the new Fredericton Performing Arts Centre, and I will just say to Tim and everyone at the Performing Arts Centre in Fredericton, it looks absolutely phenomenal, and I was just blown away by what they have planned, what they have in store, how exciting it is, what a game changer it's going to be for Fredericton and the province as a whole, and for the performing arts, and God bless Tim and his team for actually also treating comedians like artists. I just got a text from my friend and yours, Nikki Payne. Nikki, I would love it if you... Okay. Making plans to see Nikki Payne and Mandy Lynn Donovan. So anyway, the Performing Arts Centre, if you're interested in that, again, send me. I'll send you pictures that I screenshots I took. Actually, Thursday I went to Italian by Night for dinner for my wife's 51st birthday, and I have to tell you, I find it hard to order in restaurants sometimes because I have no sophisticated palate whatsoever, and generally, well, I do. I mean, I say Anyway, I had the best seafood dish thing I've ever had. It was gluten-free pasta, and then just every single seafood ever. Like, it was just loaded with scallops and mussels, and basically it was one of the best dishes I've had in a long time, and I can't stop talking about it or thinking about it. And so go to Italian by Night and order the pasta dish that is basically just millions of seafood. So I'll leave you with Diane Keaton. Thank you for listening, everyone. For once, I actually feel like I covered most of what I meant to talk about. But Diane Keaton is truly a woman that is made me throughout my life laugh, cry, maybe want to wear a vest under a jacket. And she's taught me everything, as she did you, about love, vulnerability, and what it means to be absolutely yourself. She passed away at 79, which, as one newspaper put it, was she was I can't pronounce it, a self-aware comedy genius. And some of them are saying they're devastated by it, which, again, it's so weird that when we were kids, 79 was old, and now it's just insanely young, especially when you look as good as Diane Keaton. Growing up in England in the 70s and 80s, she was like this kind of foreign ideal, like someone from across the pond who seemed utterly American, but in a way that felt closer than most. It was her style, like, the hats, the suspenders, quirky glasses, loose shirts, nervous laugh. She had like a gentleness, like she'd just kind of wandered in from a dream after you've had too much tea. She was real. I remember watching Annie Hall on a Warner Brothers VHS rental one night. And it was the way she spoke and walked and the way her voice cracked. She just felt human and hopeful and messy. And then you then see The Godfather, and she's serious and brutal and powerful. And it was just weird that in Kay there was also this fragility. And as a teenager sitting there in England, across time zones, culture, it taught me, or she taught me, that love could be funny and that awkwardness wasn't a flaw, and you didn't have to be polished. Then in the noughties, when Pam and I started dating, we were at one of our very first dates. We went to see Something's Gotta Give. And I remember thinking, here's a woman in midlife who's not playing second fiddle. She is the leading lady, interesting, charming, witty, flawed, romantic. She doesn't have to be young to deserve love. And I remember Pam and I just laughing and crying together at that movie and bonding over it. And I guess Diane Keaton, she can be remembered for so many things, but Father of the Bride, First Wives Club's another one. Maturity, dignity, humor, flaws are part of the package, chemistry and timing, and fashion. So losing her it's like it definitely felt like we all lost, the world lost someone special in a world right now where almost everything we read, see, and hear is designed to either divide us or sell us bullshit or corrupt us or make us do things that will destroy our souls or our bodies. Diane Keaton was kind of an Anne of Green Gables. She was kind of, to use the women in my life. But she was an Auntie Teresa. She was a Kyla Lingley. She was a Pam. She was all of you. Ladies, friends, listening, Daphne, Julie, all of you, Heidi, Kat, thank you all for being Diane Keatons in this topsy-turvy, ridiculous world that we live in. Thanks for listening. I've been James Mullinger. This has been Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. I will see you all next week. God bless.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.